You're going to drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln. Let's take a look at this beautiful Lincoln. Let's get started. So yes, that's actually a song that was sung by a band called Commander Cody back in 1971. It's a real song. But this, however, is a 1961 Lincoln Continental. It is actually the same model that JFK was assassinated in. Now, his vehicle was obviously a presidential limousine convertible that he was in the back of, unfortunately. But this is the same model. The front end, the rear end, it's the same car. So, there is a laundry list of things to fix on this, and there's a few small mods. As you can see, the wheels obviously are not stock. We're going to take a look at this today and take a look at the list of everything that we need to do to this really sweet Lincoln. This one actually came from Kansas. It's not too far away, a town of Sterling, Kansas. The license plates say a different state. I'm not sure. We'll see here in a minute when we take a look around. But as big as this car is, it looks massive. The interior is very small. That's the way these old cars were. They were very long, very wide, but the interior was a mid-sized car. It's really strange. But let's take a look around it first. So if you watch the video of the JFK assassination, you will see his motorcade coming along, and you will see the front of his car, and it is this car. It is beautiful. I love these old Lincolns. It's very artsy almost. It's kind of I don't know if that's the right word, but it's not just a thrown together car to make sales figures. It was actually a lot of thought put into it, and you can tell. Of course, everything is heavy steel, and you can expect 5 miles per gallon in the city on this thing. There you can see what I believe to be Detroit steel wheels. It's called smoothies or steel wheels. I'm not sure the exact name, but I really like those wheels. One thing that's really interesting about these older cars is there's little design aesthetics that are completely ignored today. They don't even care about stuff like this. A little cover for your keyhole to keep the rain out. You won't find that on no new car. Costs too much. Cuts into profits. And in addition to that cool feature, this has what's called suicide doors, and I'll show you what that is. This door opens this way, and this door opens this way. They call it that way because as an oncoming car in traffic, if you were to open the door, it's almost like suicide. They stopped making these 68 or 9 or somewhere like that because it actually was kind of dangerous. If you were going down the road and the wind were to catch it, it would just rip the door open. If like a child, just jiggle the door open, the door's flying open full force. You can throw the child out. We'll take a look at the interior in a minute, but let's continue on our tour around. I definitely wanted to show you the suicide doors on this. One thing I'm liking so far is I haven't seen any rust or dents. Look at this wide rear end, Mrs. Wizard.
What? You're looking at a wide rear end?
You're looking at it too.
That's true.
Here's where we put gas. It's a hidden little compartment there. And you get to the gas cap and fill it back up.
And you would do that quite often in this beast.
You will. They say in these old cars you can fit 3 or 4 dead bodies in it, and I think that you really can. Let's open it up and see. Got some things in storage back here, bag and some fluids and whatnot. You probably could fit at least 2 or 3 dead people in here if you wanted to. It's huge, guys. That trunk lid is as wide as some economy cars, just the trunk lid is. I like to see that all of this is intact. So many of these old cars, you open it up and it's got house carpet or who knows what in the back, but everything looks to be stock. I like to see that this original label is still intact, showing our spare tire operation. If I were to buy an older car, this is the way I would do it. I don't want it hopped up, modified, or resto mod. I want it like it the way it was when it was new. And this one is mostly 90% or more that way. Obviously the wheels aren't. Look at this, Mrs. Wizard. It's like a blade. The lines on this car are so beautiful. And if you look down this blade, it carries on all the way to the front. Really, really neat. There is a small dent here. I'm not sure, something happened years ago. Looks like maybe a crowbar. Who knows? If that's the only dent on this car, I'll take that, because so many of these are rusted out by now. You see the distance here. It's also on the other side as well. But that takes away interior volume, interior space. So as I mentioned a minute ago, the interior is actually kind of small on this. There's a good 2 or 3 inches on either side just for design aesthetics. Big thick doors. And as we arrived at the driver's front fender, we can see that we haven't seen a lot of dents or rust holes or anything like that. So let's get the hood opened up. And this opens like a Jaguar, backwards. There we have the Lincoln 430. It's a big block Lincoln engine. So 300 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque, and that's the old way of rating horsepower, where they had no accessories. They had it just a bare engine on a dyno, full power. They could get good numbers. Today's numbers are rated differently. What it truly has, according to today's ratings, I don't know. 275 horse, 260 horse, something like that. Here's our fuel pump up here. Very easy to get to. It's not buried underneath the engine, it's right there in front. One thing that's odd to me is the tiny little fan here. There's really not much of a shroud, and that's all stock. But I suppose it worked. The things didn't overheat and cause issues. One thing I think is interesting is the gap from the back of the engine to the firewall. There's nothing here. You could take the bell housing bolts out of the transmission just sitting in the engine bay. It's really kind of strange. It's kind of neat, actually. I guess it makes it easier to work on, but I haven't seen too many cars other than these Lincolns that's like that. It's kind of cool.
Car Wizard, why do I see 2 dipsticks?
Well, actually, there's 3.
You can't count yourself.
No, I'm not a dipstick, Mrs. Wizard.
Well...
Strangely enough, this car has 3 dipsticks. Let's go through and show all 3. Here's number 1, is the transmission dipstick. You check your transmission fluid with that one. Number 2 is right here, is your engine oil. You can check your oil with that. And a third one, where Mrs. Wizard is pulling out, is power steering fluid. 3 dipsticks. It's kind of cool.
And today's cars?
None. They don't want you under the hood. Bad. Shame on you. You shouldn't be under the hood. So we have the exterior tour done. We have the engine bay tour done. Now it's time for Mrs. Wizard to give you guys a tour of the interior.
Okay, so ladies and gents, here we are. It has 82,000 miles on it, and I think that's pretty accurate. I don't think it has 182 or 282. This thing is too nice and too pristine to have that many miles. But isn't that dash just beautiful? Don't you love that early 60s? Everything is nice, either polished or brushed steel. As we move up, look at that dash. It is a hard plastic. It's got a little bit of give to it, but we're not going to do too much because, again, those are ways that you can actually crack things. But look at that, nothing, okay? A little bit of a gap up there where the 2 panels meet, but that's not a break. As we move down, this is not wood from plastic trees. This is the honest gosh real stuff. Isn't this fabulous? Look at that lettering on the glove box, Continental, written with such authority. It also has, on the door card, has more wood trim, and you'll see a little bit in the back there as well, but we'll look more when we get back there. It does have a massive bench seat, which of course can fit 3 people up here. And even though it's not big space in here, there's nothing major in there because our gear shift is up here on the tree. So we can see we've got low, drive 1, drive 2, no overdrive, not with this guy. As we move to this door card, you'll see that we have electric windows. We have a fun little crank for our little triangle window. Have, of course, the door spot for our ashtray. Not taking a peek in there, but there's maybe some vintage nice coins in there. Maybe the owner should maybe go through there. Might be something worth money. We'll have that for them. It is nice and solid. If I grab this, you can definitely close the door. It's nice and attached as well. As we move to the back seat, it is actually identical to the front seat. The only difference is the partial shelf that is back there, which is what, unfortunately, JFK and Mrs. Kennedy were sitting on in their Lincoln convertible limo. But other than this, there is a mix between the leather and the fabric. It has a nice pattern to it. It does have a fold-down armrest in that center section as well. And they're actually pretty comfy. As we slide up, you'll see that the headliner is in great shape. It is a vinyl as well. So again, doesn't show marks. It doesn't have any of those problems. And I've always hated that they did not make visors long enough, especially when you're tall. Sometimes when you put them down, that sun would be right there where you didn't want it to be. But look at that. It's huge on that side. Let's put this down. Look, only a little bit of a gap there where that sun could be peeking through. And I know you're saying it'll still get there, and it will. The sun will find its one little spot that you don't want it. But look at that, massive visors, leather wrapped visors, great shape. We can switch our rear view mirror from night to day. Just change that angle just a little bit, that little geometry, just enough so those lights aren't blinding you. But that's a fun feature we don't have much today. But look at this architecture going down. Look at this, and it is separate. Hand goes on both sides. So it bolts in right here. You'd never have to worry about gluing your rear view mirror back to the windshield. So as we end up here at the steering wheel, notice that they've added the fun turn as you're going around corners to make it easier so you're not going around. It does have power steering, but with this big of a car, you're probably still going to be turning a few times on there. So even though you got this big steering wheel with this great horn ring on it with a beautiful acrylic over that lovely Lincoln symbol, that guy probably makes it a whole lot easier to get around them corners. I'm curious what this looks like on the underneath. So this good up above, I hope it's just as good below. Wow, Wizard, you're so tiny.
Well, let me come up there where you can see me a little bit better. Okay. Let's get started. That's a serious radiator core support. Solid steel. There's a little bit of oil seepage going on, like here on the oil filter area. This oil pan has a little bit of seepage on it. Nothing serious. As we move to the wheels, I can see that we have aftermarket front brakes. That is not 1961 Lincoln. And you can see here on the caliper, that is also aftermarket. It's got a special adapter bracket. I imagine this probably would have had drums up front, but now it has discs up front. Everything looks to be in decent shape. There's no oil dripping out of the shocks. So we'll move over to the other side. Same scenario here. Upgraded brakes. Nothing's leaking out of them. Nothing's leaking out of the shock. Everything looks decent there. We do have more oil pan leaking going on here. I don't believe it's a rear main seal. It's dry up in the, you can see inside this cover here. It's dry. So that's probably blowing in the wind and blowing all over here.
It's doing a great job with rust proofing so far.
Yep, it's blowing it on the frame here, all from the engine oil pan. Look at these dinky exhaust pipes from the factory. Little bitty guys. If somebody with a hot rod or a nice big car came into an exhaust shop today and you put these little bitty guys on, they would say, nope, take it back off, that's too little. We can see our transmission oil pan is leaking. It's actually accumulating on these bolts on the cross member here. Let's see what it tastes like.
No, you're not. Wizard!
Strawberry. Okay. We can see we got some leaks going on in the vacuum modulator there. That might be just coming from the pan as well and spraying all over it. Here's our big transmission mount, and it comes back to the tail shaft here. It immediately has a double cardan joint, which luckily is in good shape. And we move back and we see it's got lots of rust proofing on the body, which has saved this thing. Whoever did that was very wise, very smart. Maybe it's from the factory, I don't know. But no giant rust holes. It's not rotted and rusted out. Here we get back to the differential. Look at this skinny little tip here. Kind of weird, Mrs. Wizard.
That's definitely different.
Our mufflers shoot straight up, which is also kind of different. Nothing really seeping or leaking out of that. Maybe a tiny bit from the pinion seal, but I don't know, there's just nothing there. It's not worth messing with, really. We can see we still have the drum brakes in the back. They're not leaking. It has new shocks in the rear. Same thing over here. Like I said, I imagine the fronts had drums as well originally. Here's our big leaf springs, which are sagging from age. You can see how they've got like an arch like this here. But it sits nicely. It looks nice the way it is. Here's our fuel tank. And our more mufflers out the back again. It has dual mufflers on each side. It's kind of odd. They probably wanted it really, really quiet. That makes sense because people of this era, when they were buying a Lincoln or Cadillac, they don't want it to be some loud, screaming Corvette. They want it quiet and smooth. They want to hear the wind blowing. That's it. And that's exactly what you would achieve with all these mufflers in place. And we move back to the back. This has a massive rear bumper. Again, steel. And you can see it's a Colorado collector vehicle, so it came from Colorado.
Hey, I came from Colorado.
Good. Are you as old as that little car there?
Wizard!
I don't see a whole lot of major issues going on, some seepages here and there. I'll go ahead and let this thing down. So other than what we found, we had to push this car onto the lift today. I didn't trust driving it because it has 0 brakes. Actually, when I drove the car in, I knew it needed some brake work. I didn't know that it had no brakes, and luckily I was the one driving it. Because of experience, I have a habit of putting a car into drive or reverse and immediately into neutral and seeing what happens, hit the brakes. And I noticed right away, right to the floor. So I was able to coax it into the shop, putting it to drive, back into neutral, drive, neutral, and I got it into the shop. So we know now it has 0 brakes. Even though it's had brake work done, I'm not sure what's going on or why it has no brakes. We're going to have to dive in. And I have a pretty large list here. Let me go through everything they want done, which we haven't done yet. Oh, look, on the top of the list, brakes. Yes, it definitely needs brake work. Wheel cylinders, which are in the back, maybe they leak or something. We're going to have to dive in, put fluid in it, and see what we got. Bleed the brakes. Wheel bearings, plugs and wires, window switches having issues, adjust the doors to make sure they're all straight and closing nice. Some rust under the hood, see if we can take care of that. Driver's door weather stripping, which is the seal or a gasket around the door. We're going to have to see if we can fix that. Oil leaks. The transmission has hard shifting, which could be the vacuum modulator we just saw is vaped out, roached out, destroyed. So it's not getting a good vacuum signal there. Change the fluids. We'll look into some new tires and a general roadworthiness inspection. So it sounds like they just bought this car and they want to address all the issues, make sure it's roadworthy, and enjoy the car. This right here with this list is exactly the kind of work I love to do on these old cars. What I do not do here at this shop is, it's been sitting for 30 years, take it off the frame and do a frame-off restoration. We do not do that here. There are shops out in California that do those for you. They'll charge you 60 grand or more. We are a general repair shop, and we do some minor restorations, just like the list I just gave you. Make it roadworthy, make sure it's safe. That's it. We're finishing up on the light blue Lincoln, the 67 Lincoln, which Mrs. Wizard will pan over there for you. You can see the engine's back in. We're getting everything back together on it, and we're getting to a close on that. but there is some issues we are having, which we will probably have with this black one as well. These cars are already hard enough to find parts for as they were, but now because of the supply chain issues, it's even worse now. On the 67 that you see over there, the light blue one, the radiator has some pinholes in the side tanks. I looked all the different CarQuest, O'Reilly's, there's no radiators for it. Actually went to Jegs and it said we have an upgraded aluminum one, that one's in stock. I put the money down and said, I'll take it. And as you guys know, I got an email 3 days later, we don't have that, we haven't had that, and we have no idea when we're going to have one of those again. We'll let you know. I had Dave call them and say, we need a time frame. They said 3 weeks, possibly. And if you don't hear about it from then, we'll give you a refund. So why are we selling stuff online? It's not even there. I got the money, I want to buy your part, and you're like, oh, we don't have them. It doesn't make any sense. If you guys know of where I can find a radiator faster, you can let me know in the comment section. Please check it out yourself, that they actually do have it in stock. Don't just throw a link down there in the comment section and then I go and look into it and they say, yeah, we don't have one either. That's a waste of my time, it's a waste of your time. Actually call them. But so far, I've had no luck finding a radiator for that one. And most of the parts that I have found on the 67, and I'm sure it'll be the same on the 61, it's going to be 1 to 2, 3 weeks every time we need parts.
Okay, Wizard, I know what they're going to be saying in the comment section. They're going to say, why don't you just have the radiator rebuilt?
I could have it rebuilt, but the luck that I've had lately with having anything rebuilt, whether it be transmissions, engines, or steering racks, you can't find anyone good anymore. It's old, it's probably still going to leak, it'll last a year or two and it'll be back leaking again. That's a waste of the customer's time. I'm more of the mind anymore, put a new one in and be done with it. Enjoy the car. Having stuff rebuilt anymore is a crapshoot. I actually talked to Daniel's son and he said at the Ferrari dealership he worked at in Florida, they don't even give you the option to have rebuild because they had so much trouble with anything being rebuilt. It just failed over and over and over. And finally, the owner of that dealership said, no more. You got the money to own a Ferrari, you're going to buy brand new parts and pay the brand new price or get your car out of my shop. It's that simple. So if you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to fix this big, wide rear-end car, it's beautiful, Mrs. Wizard. I like big butts.
Are you saying something?
No, not at all. Check my Amazon affiliate link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's so many more cool videos to come. And yacht videos are coming soon. This weekend we're heading down to de-winterize the yacht. You guys are going to get some sweet yacht videos soon. Thanks for watching.